2.7 is graphing techniques. So we won't actually be graphing any of these. We're just going to be talking about how it is shifted, like left, right, up, down, if it's compressed or stretched, which are not going to be the terms that the book uses, and then if it is reflected or not. So typically we have a function that's in the form, well, it'll be something like f of x is equal to a times x minus h plus k. And this could be squared, cubed, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. But the principle of it is whatever is directly touching the x, like itself inside, that is determining if it's going left or right. So the negative h inside tells us that it is going right. If it was a positive h, it would be going left. So I always say with these, inside the parentheses or whatever the case is, so I'm just going to say inside, we go the opposite direction of the sign. I'm going to put a square on this just so it doesn't get confusing, but that can be anything. For k, if it's positive k, it goes up. And if it's negative k, it goes down. So outside, we go the same direction as the sign. Now, if there is a negative out front, okay, so in front of A, then we say that it is reflected. So if there were to be a negative sign there, then the function would be being reflected from what its parent function is. And then the last thing that we need to do is compressed and stretched. And so these are not the terms that your book uses. They use a stretch and a shrink, but I think those are too confusing, so that's why I use compressed and stretched. And so if the absolute value of A is less than 1, okay, so basically meaning it's between 0 and 1, aka it's a fraction or a decimal, then it is compressed. And if the absolute value of A is greater than 1, meaning that it can be anything from 1 to infinity, or it can be, well, no, it's not technically going to be 1 because 1 would just mean it's exactly what it is. So it could be, 1.1 to infinity, or it could be negative 1.1 to negative infinity. And so that just means it's a whole number. Well, whole number's not the right word, but it's not a fraction that can't be, that's bigger than 1. So this means that it is stretched. So the way I remember it is compressed in fraction or pretty close in the alphabet, stretched, and then like I always think whole number because we don't normally have something that's like, 8 over 3 or something, but 8 over 3 would still be a stretch rather than a compression. So all I'm looking for with this section is for you to tell me it's left, right, up, down, reflected, and then either compressed or stretched. And that's only if it's applicable. Sometimes every function doesn't do all of these things. And this section does a lot of other stuff as well that we aren't going to do just because you don't really need it. So, where do I want to start? All right, so we're going to jump to, it's page 274, but it's going to be 59 through 85 is going to be the ones that we're going to look at. And we're just going to be talking about what happens in some of those and doing a few examples using this. Now, they tell you to graph. We are not graphing, okay? You are exclusively telling me what it is, okay, what's happening. So number 60 to start with. We've got f of x is equal to x squared minus 2. So this one is going to be going down to, okay, because it's not in parentheses. So this would be considered like outside of the parentheses, even though there's not one explicitly there. So this one would just be going down to. Did you find it?
160.
Yeah. Now, if the problem changed and was like 64, it says g of x is equal to x minus 2 squared, like that. This is going to be something that's inside, which goes opposite the direction of the sign. So this one is going to be going right to. G of x is equal to the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 2. So absolute values, square roots, parentheses, they all get treated the same way. So inside the absolute value, we have a plus 3, which means I'm going left 3, opposite the direction of the sign there. And then outside I have a plus 2, which goes the same direction as the sign, so this one means I'm going up 2. So basically what this says is I take my parent absolute value function that has a vertex at 0, I'm shifting it left 3, and then up 2. And that's where that graph would be, but it would look the exact same as the parent function because there's no compress or stretch on it. It's just getting shifted around. 70, we've got h of x is equal to negative, and then parentheses x minus 1 cubed. So I'm going to see if y'all can tell me what's happening in this one.
Left. No. Right one.
Right one is opposite the direction of the sign, and what else? This one we haven't had an example of yet. What does that negative out front tell me to do? It's reflected. Let's see, 74. F of x is equal to negative 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 1. So this is a good one. This one has a lot going on. So the only thing that we haven't had yet in a problem is the 3 out front. But aside from that, what else do we have going, or what do we have going on here?
Right 2 and up 1.
Right 2, up 1. What else?
And that would be reflected or something.
Yep. Yep. The negative will always mean reflected. And then 3 is A, okay, in this situation. So if the absolute value of A, and we say the absolute value because people often get confused with the negative in there, and so they'll be like, well, that's less than 1. But the absolute value would be 3, which is greater than 1, so what does that mean?
Stretched.
Yep, stretched. And there's technically different kind of stretches based on where the number is, but we're just generically saying compressed or stretched. That's all you need to be worried about. Um, 80. F of x is equal to 3 times the square root of x minus 2. So that minus 2 is not under the radical, so what is that telling me to do?
It'd be down.
Yep. Down 2. And what does the 3 out front tell me?
Compressed.
Is it a fraction?
I don't know.
Is 3 a fraction? No. So what does it mean?
That means it's stretched.
Yes, stretched. It's the same number as the one up here. All right, 82. This will be our last one unless y'all have questions. G of x is equal to 1/2 x cubed plus 2. So what's happening with this one?
Up 2.
Up 2, and what else?
Compressed.
Yes, this one is compressed because it has a fraction out front. Any questions about those? Now, the hard part is you obviously can't check your answers in the back because this isn't the way that they're done in the back. So if you are not sure about something, absolutely feel free to ask and I can tell you what it is. I mean, you might be able to look at the back and see generally if you did it right or not, but it's going to have a graph picture for you probably in the back. All right, so your problems are 61, 65, 69, 73, 77, 81, and 85. And just so you know, because we didn't have one like that happened like this, but you can have something that's like just reflected or like just compressed or stretched. It doesn't have to also be shifted. We just didn't have any that happened for. So.